She worked in the shadows of Umbrella's darkest labs. She held secrets tied to the G-Virus, and then her memory was wiped clean. Was it an accident, a betrayal, or did she want to forget something horrifying? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most forgotten mysteries in Resident Evil lore. Who erased Yoko Suzuki's memory, and why? If you love Resident Evil mysteries, hit that like button and subscribe. We uncover the forgotten stories the games don't want you to remember. And don't forget to check out our sister channel, Retrolist HQ, for more hidden retro gems. Now, let's head back into the nightmare.
Yesterday, just before dawn,
in Resident Evil Outbreak, Yoko Suzuki is introduced as a quiet, reserved young woman caught in the chaos of Raccoon City. To most players, she might seem like just another survivor. But she's not. Yoko is hiding something, not just from others, but from herself. What the game doesn't tell you up front is that Yoko used to work for the very company that caused the outbreak, Umbrella. That's right, she was one of their researchers, a scientist, someone deeply involved in one of the most dangerous biological experiments in human history. And it gets darker through scattered documents and hidden clues in the game. Specifically in the below freezing point scenario, we learn that Yoko didn't just work at Umbrella. She worked under William Birkin, the man behind the G-Virus. The same virus that mutated him into a grotesque monster and doomed the entire city.
That guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
This wasn't low-level desk work. Yoko had clearance. She had an Umbrella ID card that could open restricted labs. That's not something civilians stumble into. And yet, when the outbreak begins, she doesn't remember any of it. No memories, no explanation, no warning. So what happened to her mind? Who took her identity, her knowledge, her past, and why? Even in gameplay, there are subtle clues. She knows the layout of the labs. She reacts with a strange familiarity, like muscle memory, kicking in where her actual memory fails. So we ask again, how does a person forget working for Umbrella? How does a scientist forget the deadliest virus on Earth? This is where the real mystery begins. And what if Yoko never chose to forget? What if someone made that decision for her? Coming up, we dig into the disturbing possibility that Umbrella erased her memory deliberately and uncover what they were trying to hide. If this already has you thinking, hit like. It really helps more people uncover these lost stories from the Resident Evil universe. So here's what we know. Yoko Suzuki worked under William Birkin on the G-Virus project. She had access to Umbrella's inner sanctum, and when hell broke loose in Raccoon City, she didn't remember any of it. No names, no labs, no code sequences, just flashes of familiarity and fear. This isn't your typical case of memory loss. It's too precise. She remembers how to survive. She remembers how to use lab equipment, but not what happened or what she did. That's not natural. That's engineered. Umbrella had every reason to wipe her mind. She was a liability. If she knew too much about Birkin's virus, or about the company's illegal experiments on live subjects, she could expose everything. In the outbreak scenario, the Hive, we find gruesome evidence that Umbrella was testing BOWs, bioorganic weapons, on human patients. What if Yoko witnessed it? Or worse, was forced to participate? If she tried to speak out, even internally, Umbrella had the tools to shut her down. They didn't need to kill her, just erase her. It's cleaner that way, less traceable, and in a city like Raccoon City, full of chaos and monsters, no one would notice a missing memory. But here's where things get interesting. What if Yoko chose to forget? Maybe she knew what Umbrella was doing and couldn't live with it. Guilt, fear, survival. She might have taken matters into her own hands. Umbrella had memory suppression drugs. We know this. Yoko was a researcher. She would have known how to use them. She might have administered the dose herself before the outbreak hit full force. It's tragic, but it fits. Imagine waking up in a nightmare, knowing you were once on the other side of the glass. And all you have now is the sense that something isn't right. So now, we have two competing stories. One where the corporation did it to protect their secrets, and one where a scientist wiped her own mind to escape the guilt. But there's a third possibility, the darkest one of all. What if Yoko wasn't just a researcher? What if she was a test subject too? Let me know in the comments which theory you believe. Was she silenced, or did she choose to forget?
The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
I'm going to take you with me.
We've talked about who Yoko was, and how she may have lost her memory. But now, let's ask something far more chilling. What exactly did she know? Because what Yoko carried in her mind, or once did, might have been enough to bring Umbrella down. To understand this, we need to go back to the man Yoko worked for, William Birkin. Birkin wasn't just a scientist. He was a visionary obsessed with power. The G-Virus was meant to be the next evolution in bioweapons, stronger, smarter, faster. And it was far more unstable than anything Umbrella had developed before. The virus didn't just mutate bodies. It reshaped them into horrifying abominations based on instinct, memory, and raw emotion. Yoko may not remember these experiments, but her reactions tell a different story. She freezes in horror. She hesitates in places that are otherwise new to her, as if some part of her remembers. The sounds, the screams, the mutations. And then there's the possibility that Yoko didn't just observe the G-Virus. She helped develop it. There's a chilling piece of background lore in Resident Evil Outbreak file number 2 that mentions an unnamed assistant involved in G-cell replication studies. That file doesn't list a name, but timeline-wise and access-wise, it could be Yoko. If that's true, then she didn't just work for Birkin. She was hands-on with the most dangerous bioweapon in Resident Evil history. That kind of involvement makes her a huge threat, not just to Umbrella's image, but to the world. If someone like Yoko escaped the city and remembered everything, she could expose how far Umbrella went. But what if the worst was still hidden inside her mind? A memory she doesn't even realize she's carrying. There's one theory that Yoko was working on a failsafe, a cure, or a countervirus, something that could have stopped the G-Virus and Umbrella before things went too far. That would explain everything. Why she was targeted, why her memory was erased, and why she was left behind when everything collapsed. Let that sink in. If Yoko was working on a way to undo Birkin's madness, and Umbrella wiped her memory to bury it, they didn't just erase her identity. They erased humanity's best chance at stopping the virus. And that brings us to our final question. Was Yoko a researcher or a test subject? Because the truth might be even worse. We've looked at the theories that Umbrella wiped Yoko's memory. We've considered whether she did it to herself. But there's one final possibility, and it's the most disturbing of all. What if Yoko Suzuki was never just a scientist? What if she was also a test subject? Think about it. She's working at Umbrella, high-level access. Suddenly, her memory is gone. She has strange reactions to certain environments and flashes of familiarity she can't explain. Her background is a blank slate, even to herself. Now here's where it gets dark. In the Hive, a scenario inside a secret Umbrella hospital, we find evidence of patients being used as live BOW test subjects. Some of them were staff, scientists, even researchers who got too close to the truth. Umbrella wasn't just making monsters. They were testing control, rewriting minds, removing memories, shaping subjects who wouldn't fight back. Yoko might have been one of those subjects. And here's the twist. What if the memory wipe wasn't just to hide what Yoko knew, but to test if they could erase someone's identity and still make them function? In other words, Yoko's entire escape from Raccoon City may have been the final phase of a psychological trial. In Resident Evil lore, Umbrella was always interested in perfect soldiers. Creatures that followed orders, that didn't remember pain. What better prototype than a quiet, intelligent woman, tested without her consent? If Yoko was the first successful trial in cognitive erasure and emotional suppression, then her whole life after the outbreak wasn't survival. It was an experiment in progress. That would also explain why she never got a full arc in the series. Because her story was never meant to end. She was written out like a corrupted file. So, who erased Yoko's memory? Maybe it was Umbrella. Maybe it was her. Or maybe she never had a choice to begin with. If you found this deep dive into the mystery of Yoko Suzuki compelling, subscribe now to ContraBrosTeam. We uncover the dark, lost, and forgotten lore of retro horror games every week. And if you want more game lore lists and hidden gems, check out our second channel, Retro List HQ, where we rank the weirdest, rarest, and creepiest games you've never played.